This is the Raising Carter podcast, and I'm your host, Ramon Weatherall Sr., and the Raising Carter podcast is a podcast that's dedicated to fathers with sons. Fathers with sons who want to be and want to stay an integral and an important part of their lives and just want to hear somebody talk about the things that they're thinking about. But do you realize, Dash, that the things that you do affect your son? And on every level. And the reason why I bring that to you and talk about that today is because the Lewiston, Mass shooter, Lewiston, Maine, the mass shooter Robert Carr had a son. And what he did affected his son. What's going to affect his son? From him, his suicide, that just that alone. But then him killing 18 other people, wounding, anywhere up to 60 other people, 3 people still in critical condition. My thing is, if you just wanted to kill yourself, why did you do that? Why did you have to destroy 18 other families? Why did you have to wound all these other people? Why did you have to do that? It was just a selfish act. It was just a selfish act. But he left his son a note, some type of note. So let's listen to that. Let's try to get some of the psyche behind this. Because what you do, Daz, affects your son. And this man had a son. This 40-year-old man had a son
that was found in his residence. So this is a paper style note. I'm not going to read it to you verbatim, but what it is it's a note to a loved one and is saying that this is the passcode for my phone. This is the bank account numbers. And I wouldn't describe it as a explicit suicide note, but the tone and tenor was that the individual was not going to be around and wanted to make sure that this loved one had access to his phone and whatever was in his phone. We're working on that now to get into the phone. That's one of those search warrants. That's one of those very specialized skill set that our folks have. And then the bank codes to make sure that that happens. That's not uncommon in suicide situations. You get long loads, you get very set up scenarios, but that's something that you asked about, and I do appreciate that. And again, we can talk about that a little bit more now. There was
that doesn't sound like a person with this severe mental health, this psychotic person. You left a suicide note, you left bank codes, so your son or whoever could get whatever they needed. That sounds like a person who knew what they were doing. So for all the people who want to use that as an excuse, to me, I'm a realist. That doesn't sound like somebody who they knew what they was doing and then didn't care. But what is your, what good is that stuff to your son? What good? Okay, yeah, everybody needs money to live, but you just took a crap on his life. He can't live in that city anymore. Can't. What can he do there? What can he do there? He's gonna be known as the son of the guy who, murdered all these people. What can he do there? You just took a crap on his life. Your family, everybody, they've gotta deal with the brunt. They've got to deal with what you did. Like I seen the mayor at the end of, the governor or whatever, at the end of her speech, he was like, Robert Card is dead. And so is his family. So yeah, you just took a crap on your son's life, bro. Like that's what you did. And that's what fathers you got to understand. When you go out and do things and you decide to take your own life, or you decide to do something that's going to put you in jail forever, your family's got to deal with that. Your son, your daughter, your daughter, your son's got to deal with what you did. They've got to go around and hear all how bad you were, and you're probably just like him. He's got to deal with the fact: am I like this? Would I do something like this? Do I have the, you know, do I have the propensity or the mindset that I would possibly do something like this? He's got to deal with that. And they also, in this press conference, they also bring up his mental health situation. Let's listen to that.
That we covered that as well. Another question that I've had some conversations around this morning. You know, if you talk about, is there a motive here, right? I think clearly there's a mental health component to this. We still need to do some research around trying to get access to certain records and things of that nature, which again, you could probably imagine is not just as simple as just calling somebody, hey, can you send me this thing? But what I would say is that based on what I've heard through conversations this morning, I don't see, or I'm told that we don't have access to any forcibly committed for treatment information reference to Mr. Card, okay? So you can volunteer, as an example, to go to a facility and seek treatment for months on end. But if you're not forcibly committed to seek that treatment, and it's very specific to treatment, right? Not forcibly taken for an evaluation. An evaluation is completely different than treatment. So there are a lot of very specific criteria around firearms, and are you a possessed person?
Basically, he's saying right here that
prohibited
this
person.
shit was on him. This was on him. Don't blame it on his mental health. Don't blame it on guns. Don't blame it on the police. Don't blame it on nothing else. This was on him. This was on him. But when are we going to start finding out who's more likely to do this, and when we're going to start, as men, policing ourselves, taking accountability for ourselves? Yeah, this is on him. This is what he's saying. This is on him. This is don't blame it on mental health because he wasn't forcibly treated. Don't blame it on, assault rifles. And, we got to get rid of guns, because I get tired of people talking about how we got to get rid of guns. We got to get rid of, assault rifles. Well, they'll just go get another gun. They'll just get another gun to do. If somebody wants to hurt people, they're going to find a way to do it. If somebody wants to hurt people, they're going to find a way to do it. We got to deal with the person who's doing it. Why do you think you can do this?
And rather, and what that looks like. So in this scenario, we have not seen to this point, I have not seen to this point, that Mr. Card was forcibly committed for treatment. And if that didn't happen, then the NICS check, you could go into a firearms dealer who does all of their work, and the background check is not going to ping like this individual is prohibited. And something that's incredibly important for us to say, and for me to say, and I find myself saying it on a regular basis, just because there's appears to be a mental health nexus to this scenario, the vast majority of people, with a mental health diagnosis will never hurt anybody. They won't hurt themselves. They're not a danger to the community. Based on percentages alone, there's a bunch of folks in here that have a mental health diagnosis. I know law enforcement officers that have a mental health diagnosis. That doesn't mean they're a danger to the community. We certainly have people that reach that crisis level where that does occur, and we deal with those folks on a regular basis, sometimes through involuntary, forcible commitments, right? And sometimes not. Sometimes there's different levels of that mental health system, and that's a whole different conversation that can be quite lengthy. And I can tell you that law enforcement has been involved at this point for decades and heavily involved over the last 15 years or so.
Like I said, he's basically telling you in so many words that anybody that's, has common sense, anybody who just wants to see things clearly, that you can't, we're not doing that. We're not blaming this on his mental health situation. We're not going to let him get off. We're not going to let him do that. We're not going to let him do that. And you shouldn't. And you shouldn't. If you can sit out and write a note and tell your family, your son or whoever you wrote this to, that, here's what you need and all that, man, you're not crazy. You're not crazy. You're not that crazy. You're not crazy enough that you didn't know what you were doing and this is what you wanted to do and this was just plain evil. All that other stuff might be might be true. But the number one thing is that this man, Robert Card, was just evil. He was just hateful. And that's what he wanted to do, is go and kill innocent people. That's number one. But his actions just destroyed his son's life. You say you love him. If we say we love our sons, then why do we do things that they possibly could destroy their lives, hurt them? Because just committing suicide is gonna hurt your son. Even if you got a shitty relationship with him, it's still gonna hurt him, because he's gonna think, well, if things go wrong for me, will I revert to doing that too? Is that the type of person that I am? So just that alone. But if you had any type of relationship with him and you go out and you commit suicide, that's gonna destroy it. That's gonna you might as well added him to the list of the people that were killed that day, because a part of him died too. It was just a selfish act. And once you become a father, being selfish, you got to kind of throw it out the window. You got to throw that out the window. Yeah, if he was a single man and he went out and did this, it would be, I ain't going to say understandable, but it would be something that you could see being done. But you got family that live in that town. You got a son who lives in that town. He can't live there anymore. Why is he going to live there anymore? Stop making excuses for people who make wrong decisions. Oh, it was guns. It was mental health. He was a military reserve. No, he was just evil. He was just evil. He was just a bad person. There's such things as that. There are bad people, and those people need to be dealt with, no matter what color they are. They need to be dealt with accordingly, and not given all these scapegoats and all this stuff and all that. No, man, you need to be handled. with prejudice. So other people who think that this is something that they want to do need to think about that again. Is this what you really want to do? Because this is what's going to happen to you. And you better think about that. You better think about what you do, dads and men, because if you care about anybody else besides yourself, you gonna put them through hell. Like they say, when someone goes to jail, you don't go to jail alone. The people in your life go to jail too. But when you go out and you commit a crime, when you commit murder, when you kill somebody, your family is hurt, and the people that the victim or victims, their family is hurt. All because you wanted to do something. We got to start. Being a man manhood isn't something that you just walk into. No, it's something that's earned. It's something that's earned. Robert Carr wasn't a man, he was a male. A man wouldn't do this. A male, a selfish male would. An evil, selfish male would do this. A man wouldn't do this. A man, you can have prejudice, things you don't like, people you don't like. I don't like mint chocolate ice cream. I have a prejudice to mint chocolate ice cream. I'm not eating it. I'm not buying it. I'm not eating. That's just life. But that doesn't mean you go out and hurt people. Or you go out, if I see somebody with mint chocolate ice cream, I slap it out of their hand and push them down and kick them. No, man. You being a man and manhood is about controlling yourself, being able to fight through urges and anger and depression. That's what being a man is about. That's what being a father is about. So the things you do affect and can hurt your son. So watch what you do. If you need somebody to talk to, if you need help, if you need therapy, go get it. But don't go out doing something that's going to destroy and basically fuck up their life just because you can't deal with whatever's going on with you. And that is this episode of the Raising Carter podcast. I'm your host, Ramon Weatherall Sr. If you like this podcast, what I need you to do is share it with your friends. Share it with other people. Share it with people somebody who you think needs to hear this message, somebody you think that would appreciate this message, would appreciate this podcast. Share it with them, man. That's the only way we can keep this going. But like the hat says, I will never quit. It's the truth. I ain't quitting. I ain't stopping. And I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, I Will Never Quit Hatwear, for supporting this podcast, supporting me. And I just want to say, watch what you do. Understand your position is very important. Understand that you are needed, fathers, and that what you do and say, your actions have a direct effect on your son. And I'm out of here. Peace.